Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Mystery Theory. Today, we're gonna travel all the way to Australia for a case that is known as the coffee killer. It is raining. Please make it stop so I can do chores, but in the meantime, let's try to make it last for the duration of this video. Since I said that, it is probably going to stop, but we will enjoy it for as long as it lasts. For those of you who are new to the channel, this is an ASMR channel that covers true crime. If you feel that is something that you don't enjoy, find it insulting, disrespectful to your views, or you plainly just don't like it, please exit this video now. For those of you who want to support the channel and get extra content, I have a Patreon that you can check out, where you get 4 extra videos a month for $5. I also have a members only page where I share my channel's videos ad free. Now, nestled beneath the Harbour Bridge in Sydney, Australia, was the Billy Blue College of Design. This was a prestigious institution, so much so that students from around the world wanted to go there. That was the case for these friends in today's video. Myrna Salehin and Jessica Wongso were both from Indonesia. They were both in their first year at that prestigious school for graphic design, and they were both particularly from Jakarta, Indonesia. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it, but the girls both bonded, and they had a lot in common. They not only had a passion for graphic design, but they also came from very wealthy families. So they bonded, and from there they were inseparable. After graduation, a few years ahead of where we started, Myrna went back to Jakarta to work there, where she had her family. But Jessica stayed and worked in Sydney. company. So much so that her family decided to move there with her in the year 2008. Jessica and Myrna never lost contact. They were both doing well money-wise. They had great jobs in graphic design, and they were both in love. Myrna with a young Indonesian man, and Jessica, you guessed it, with a young Australian man. They were not alike, though, like the friends. In the year 2014, Myrna took a vacation in Sydney, and the girls decided to meet to catch up. They talked about work, boyfriends, and overall life. But during that conversation, Myrna was surprised to learn that Jessica's boyfriend, Patrick O'Connor, was a little bit of a ladies' boy. Going back to when Myrna and Jessica were in college, they were always studying and kind of focused in school. But now, kind of how they remember that friendship was like that. But now, they kind of moved on to different ways. This guy, the boyfriend, Patrick, was involved in drugs. He liked to drink. And apparently, Myrna noticed that this was kind of sticking with Jessica, and Jessica becoming more of a party girl. I have to stop myself here and say this is part of the case. I don't think we should judge somebody for the way they make their lives or they change into adulthood, including adult choices like Jessica was making. But Myrna, being more conservative, was upset at Jessica for having that boyfriend she didn't quite approve of. She believed that he was a bad influence and asked her to please break things up and stay away from him. Myrna, was very, very clear that she believed that this guy was going to mess up Jessica's future. Now, as you can probably imagine, Jessica didn't take this well. She told her friend that she loved Patrick and that she would stay with him. Myrna was very visibly upset, and the rest of her Sydney trip was kind of awkward. Myrna made sure that she was always with another friend with him and kind of cut that close relationship with Jessica. In the end, Jessica took Myrna's advice and dumped her boyfriend. But I think that deeply inside, she blamed it on her friend Myrna. She was the one that started all the doubts in her head, and leaving him at this point didn't make her problems go away. Instead of getting better after breaking up with Patrick, Jessica started drinking even more. Over the next 2 years, she continued drinking more and more until one night in August 2015, when she had a car accident and she plowed her car over a curb across a grassy area and through the wall of a nursing home. Her car landed very close to the bedrooms where the residents were sleeping. She got a DUI, a cracked rib, and some jail time other than the embarrassment of being in the news for what she did. She was angry, not so much sorry. Throughout 2014 and 2015, she tried to take her own life 5 times. She was admitted to the hospital each time, but then came back to her life. When she came back to work, she told her boss that her experience at the hospital was not great. Quote, "Those bastards in the hospital didn't allow me to go home. They treated me like a murderer, and if I want to kill someone, I know exactly the right dose." Well, end quote. 2015, during one of her failed attempts, she had poison and was found unconscious with a bottle of whiskey and 3 handwritten letters. One letter blamed her ex-boyfriend, Patrick O'Connor, for her death. She addressed 2 other letters to her family and work friends saying her goodbyes. Jessica was a great graphic designer. She worked for New South Wales Ambulance. But while working there for less than a year, she got angry at her boss, Christy Carter. It got so bad that she even threatened Christy because she wouldn't help her find a place to stay after the crash. Jessica told Christy, quote, "You must die and your mother must die." Christy reported this to the local police. Jessica was feeling like nobody understood what she was going through. She felt very alone and missing Patrick. So she started texting and calling him. She threatened to hurt herself and friends if he didn't take her back. He was a party boy, a ladies' boy, but he wasn't dumb, and he could tell that she was unstable. So he ended up getting a restraining order against her. Myrna, back in Jakarta, she was having the time of her life. She was a wealthy socialite, or described as a wealthy socialite. She had a great job that she loved. She was planning her dream wedding. And after what happened with her friend in Sydney, she didn't invite her dear friend Jessica. No, Jessica didn't take this very well. She was angry at her friend who gave her that terrible advice according to her. And now she was suffering And it was in Jessica's head Myrna's fault. So she got even more angry when she learned she wasn't invited to the wedding. Myrna was marrying Arif Sumarko, and this was the wedding. It was taking place in Bali in late 2015. This was a fairy tale kind of wedding, and for their honeymoon they were going to go to Korea. They were in love and they both wanted a family. The contrast between one's life and the other was pretty strong. The wedding came and went, and Jessica was going deeper. She was fired from her graphic design job, which I assumed she would have lost earlier after the threats, but she kept it and then was fired. So she decided to go back to Indonesia and specifically to Jakarta, where her friend lived. She said that she wanted to see Myrna to let her know she had no hard feelings, and she wanted to congratulate her on her wedding. The two girls agreed to meet for coffee on January 6, 2016. Now, Myrna was not into it. She was a little apprehensive, but Jessica assured her she had good intentions. Myrna did not trust her, so she asked one of their mutual friends, her friend Hani, to go with her. Hani was another friend of theirs that attended the same college in Sydney. Jessica arrived too early at this trendy restaurant in the posh Grand Indonesia shopping mall. Myrna thought it was unusual when Jessica texted her at 1 p.m. saying that she would pre-order the coffee for the three girls. Now, Myrna told her, "Please don't do that. There's no need for it. We will arrive later in the afternoon." Now, They were supposed to meet at 5:15. But everything changed. Jessica arrived at 3:30, more than 90 minutes before Myrna and Hanny, and she walked around the restaurant looking for the perfect table. Then she left. She went to some nearby stores to get some gifts for her friends. She bought 3 small bottles of bath soap for the 3 of them at Bath and Body Works, and returned to the restaurant by 4:14. She brought 3 large gift bags, which is kind of weird because inside each one of them had a single small bottle of bath soap in them. Now, security cameras showed Jessica walking around the entire restaurant. Then she stops and she looks at the camera, straight at the cameras. Then, after some time, she chose a half-circle booth with a large palm tree behind it. This palm tree kind of hid the table from security, and only a single security camera was pointing directly at the table. At that point, she put the bags on the table and then moved the bags towards the center of the table. Almost an hour before the other friends arrived, Jessica ordered a Vietnamese iced coffee for Myrna and 2 additional coffees for herself and Hanny. The drinks arrived at 4:24 p.m. Jessica was caught on camera doing something to the drinks, but the bags were blocking the view. The drinks then sat on the table for 52 long minutes until they arrived at 5:16 p.m. Within a few seconds of sitting down, Myrna took a big drink of the iced coffee that Jessica had ordered, and she knew that something was wrong. She started waving her arm in front of her mouth and said, "There is something wrong with this coffee." She pushed the glass away from her and continued a wave. Within a minute, Myrna's head fell back against the top of the padded booth. Her eyes rolled back in her head and she started to convulse violently, then started foaming from her mouth. People started to gather around. They assumed she was epileptic. Honey was crying and panicking, calling Myrna's husband. And Jessica looked fine. Myrna became unresponsive, and emergency medical workers carried her out of the restaurant in a wheelchair. Sadly, she died shortly afterwards. Jessica was the first person to make an accusation. She asked the manager, "What did you put inside the drinks?" So he collected the 3 coffee glasses and saved them in the back of the restaurant until the police arrived. It was assumed in the beginning that Myrna had an epileptic seizure. So Jessica and Honey were not questioned at the scene. But 3 days later, Myrna's death was being investigated, and the Vietnamese iced coffee content. The drink contained a lethal dose of cyanide. So this was no seizure, but was now considered a homicide. Interestingly enough, and I assume for different cultural or religious views, initially Myrna's family didn't want an autopsy. After doing some research, I didn't know, but learned that Indonesia is predominantly a Muslim country. So it's not common for autopsies because it mutilates the body according to their beliefs. The police assured them that was going to be a brief procedure, and they finally agreed to an autopsy. What they found is bleeding in Myrna's stomach, which was consistent with a corrosive substance. They also found traces of cyanide in her stomach, but not in other organs. They looked through or analyzed the security camera footage, and they could see Jessica awkwardly backing away from the scene while Myrna was convulsing. She was messing with her hands. You couldn't quite see what she was doing with them. And it was speculated that she was moving something from one hand to the other. Then there was another theory that said she was scratching her finger because she had just stirred poison into Myrna's drink using her finger. There is even still pieces of that camera footage. Now, when the police learned about the problems between Jessica and Myrna, they turned to the authorities in Sydney to look into Jessica's background. In Australia, the death penalty was abolished in the 80s, but in Indonesia, it was carried out by firing squad. The Australian police agreed to help in the investigation under the understanding and agreement that the Indonesian government would not seek the death penalty. The Australian police shared Jessica's story, her DUI charges, her attempts to end her life, the death threat to her boss, restraining orders, and more. They also interviewed her former boss, Christy Carter, for 9 hours, which became key evidence against Jessica. Within weeks, Indonesian police officially charged Jessica with the murder of Myrna and police took Jessica back to the Oliver restaurant for a reenactment of the crime. She was dressed in an orange prison jumpsuit and had a sign hanging around her neck with her name on it. As you can probably imagine, social media and the news became obsessed with this case. Reporters and not really paparazzi, but the kind of creepy following reporters were behind every step in Jessica's journey, and she seemed to enjoy it. She was smiling and waving as if she was not in the know of the reason for them following her. Despite the agreement with the Australian police, the Indonesian police, the prosecutor said the agreement would be void if they convicted her on evidence. The Indonesian police also argued that Jessica was not actually Australian, but only a permanent resident. So you only have to find a loophole to get away with what you want. That's my little commentary. Eventually, the police said they would leave it up to the judges for sentencing. This became the most notorious case in the country's history, and the media gave Jessica the nickname the Coffee Killer. The public interest was crazy in Indonesia and Australia, and it almost seemed like a show covered every night on the news. Everyone had an opinion, and this was a big show. And the rumors started, and they went crazy. Like Myrna's husband was having an affair with Jessica. Then a coffee shop in Jakarta advertised non-toxic Vietnamese iced coffee with the slogan, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger." The Oliver restaurant became a tourist attraction for people who wanted to see the crime scene, which I think it's ridiculous and super inappropriate, but to each their own. The trial started on June 15, 2016, and the Indonesian television broadcasted live. Jessica's wealthy family hired a well-known celebrity defense lawyer, and they questioned the autopsy results, pointing out that they found no cyanide in any of Myrna's organs other than her stomach. They produced forensic and toxicology experts that testified there was no proof that cyanide caused her death. Jessica took the stand and explained that Myrna was a friend with whom she could laugh, talk, and share secrets. She tried to pretend they were still close. Myrna's friends and family held press conferences in attempts to help people see the reality of their relationship. The prosecution presented 46 witnesses, including Myrna's father, twin sister, and husband, employees of the restaurant, and they approached this with the motive of revenge. They argued that Jessica blamed Myrna for the breakup with her ex-boyfriend. and whatever happened after that in Jessica's life. The prosecution alleged that the security camera footage showed her looking around the restaurant to see if anyone was watching. They believe it was premeditated. She had to plan to have that poison. They used Jessica's former employer's testimony, the threats, restraining orders, and Jessica's anger, how it was consuming her life. Ultimately, the three judges agreed with the prosecution, and on October 27, 2016, 5 months after, Jessica was found guilty of poisoning her friend Myrna by putting cyanide in her coffee. She was sentenced to 20 years in prison. They submitted an appeal, but it was soon after rejected. So now she will have to serve her full sentence. When you guys suggested this case, I thought it was one of those cases that I've covered before that happened because of jealousy. I can't remember the name. I can see her face in my head, but I'll have the video down below in the description box. You guys remember the case of that teenager was killed by her other teenage friends one night when she snuck out? Again, I can't think of her name right now, which is terrible, but it reminded me of that, you know? A group of friends, or a couple of friends that at certain point shared a lot of things in common. One day they take different routes, either moving away, picking different careers, getting out of high school, changing the way they enjoy having a friendship, and things change. And for a good friend, it makes you happy to know that your friend is following her dreams. You're happy for them even if you're not by them, even if you don't understand them. It makes you happy to know that they're picking the things, or they're choosing the things that makes them happy. But in some other twisted minds, the only happiness is if you stay by me, if you do what I say you should do. And if for whatever reason you don't listen, you end up having the life I wanted for myself, then that's a problem. The second one is not a friend. And that is when the jealousy and the different views in life really can mess up something that was great in the beginning. I have to say that when you're young, it's hard to see, but for some people, taking this kind of road for whatever reason makes sense in their heads. And I'm not telling you what you should do as a friend, but I'm telling you what I look for in a friend. We love each other, we share things, we keep each other's secrets, but in the end, if you're happy somewhere else, if you're happy doing something completely different from what I think it's happiness for me, then I'll be happy for you. Genuinely, from the bottom of my heart. Because I think we're all different. We grow apart. But we can still be happy for each other. It comes down to respect, understanding, and taking responsibility. I think in this case, Jessica needed to understand that getting involved with that boyfriend was her choice. Drinking was her choice. Partying was her choice. And nobody was making her stop yet. She blamed it all on this one person, initially, Patrick, and then shifted it to her friend Myrna for even mentioning leaving that guy. Now, in the end, I think those people that blame others for their wrongdoing just lie to themselves to make themselves feel better. I always tell my kids, from my 21-year-old to my 14-year-old, you take responsibility for your decisions. Somebody could influence you, yes, but in the end, it's your decision. So I don't want to know your excuse. I don't want to know who started it. I don't care who's at fault or who you believe is at fault. You focus on doing better. You focus on fixing the problem from this moment forward. I used to have an excuse when I was a teenager for everything. Everything had an excuse. So after I learned how dumb I was to come up with excuses for not doing the right thing, I just can't sit and listen to excuses from my kids when they want to tell me why it happened. I think in the end, the right thing to do for me and my family is to take accountability. Yes, the glass broke. It was an accident, and I'm sorry. I don't want to hear that your sister was walking by and she was singing and you got startled and it fell. It just happened. It was in your hand. It broke. And that's it. I think in this case, Jessica was always looking for what I was looking when I was younger. The excuse to continue to do whatever the hell you want. And it will work. It will work for a while, but it will never lead you anywhere good. So yeah, accountability is one of those hard things. But is there always the beginning of making a change, taking responsibilities for your actions, no matter influenced by what or who. And now you know. Now you can do better. Now you can choose to do better. It is easier to come up with excuses, but if we're trying to grow, if we're trying to be a better person, then excuses will never help you do better. In this case, jealousy and Jessica's lack of accountability made her believe that the problem was Myrna and never Jessica herself. Feel free to share your thoughts down below about this case. In the end, we can't change what happened to these friends, but we can always learn something. We can always take something from tragedies that really change families and friends forever. Thank you so much for being here today. If you're still awake, please remember to like this video if you liked it and leave a comment to help spread this video around for more people to watch. I'll talk to you guys next time. Good night.